Hey, my desk is gone. I'm using a little plastic table. So while I'm working on the desk in the shop, I get to use this little folding table as a desk. It's really nice. I feel like maybe someday I'll get to sit at the big kids' folding table. Okay, so when I moved back to Olympia, Washington back, 4 or 5 years ago, I was using a table for a workstation for my computer, and I decided I really needed a desk with drawers and the whole schlemazel. So I found this guy on Craigslist. Lady wanted $125 for it. I went and looked at it, and it was structurally unsound. Some of the structure inside was broken. The carcass was all sloppy. These side panels down here on the inside are split. You can kind of see where that one's split. It needed some reinforcing, so I reinforced it and tried to keep the character as much as I could to the original. The desk was originally built by a missionary. I bought it from his sister after he'd passed away, but he built this back, she thinks, in either the 60s or the early 70s. So it looks like it was from a kit. I'm not really doing any disservice to the great state of American furniture building by modifying this. It was great for my laptop. My needs for this desk have changed, and I never, ever close the roll top. So my plan is to take that roll top off of there. Find somebody that wants it. It'd be really cool, if you had a table or something, and you could put that roll top on it, mount it to that table. That would be pretty cool, like a butcher block table. I'm going to take this top off. I'm going to modify the desk. It still is in kind of rough shape from the repairs that I did before. They sort of addressed the problem but didn't really put it to bed. And I've got some ideas that I think I can use to not add a ton of weight to this, but significantly reinforce it and make it a little sturdier. So I'll paint it kind of yellow with darker drawers, darker top, and then the shelf that this roll top is going to be replaced by will be dark as well. So it should look kind of cool. I don't know. It'll look better than it is right now. I got to do this. I got to fix the drawers. Some of the drawers are pretty jacked up. I mean, this is an antique desk, and it probably wasn't built to endure for a million years. So we're going to do what we can to give it another 25, 30 years of happy life. Or at least until they put me in the ground and then somebody else can wrestle with it for a while. So I got all this hardware off of the desk. It's sort of that 60s, maybe early 70s, might even be late 50s stuff for all I know. It's kind of oxidized, looks really crappy. My plan is I'm going to take the wire brush to this and knock the finish off of it, scuff it a bit, and then hit it with some hammerite. It could look really cool or it could look really awful. But we'll find out which way it is, right? Also got these knobs. I think these would look good with some hammerite on them too. They don't look terrible right now. They look kind of antique. We have to replace some of these screws. Some of these screws are a little bit hinky. Here's one with a nut on it because apparently the screw they had was too long. So, here's another one just like that. So there's a couple of them. Apparently missionaries know how to farm boy things and get it back in service. Good times. There's some stuff I'm not going to be able to take out and fix. This is pretty chewed up. I'm going to just try and sand it off and stabilize it. I could probably glue a Dutchman in there, but I don't know if I'm going to take the time to do it or not. Probably just clean it up. Nobody's going to be able to see it when the drawer's closed, right? There's something that's kind of cool on this drawer. It's got a big old knot right here. It's got a hole that runs through it. Not all the way to the inside, but it looks kind of cool. This drawer is special because somebody made some file cabinet holders. I mean, these are file holders. They just chop some cleats up, put some pin through it, and put some adhesive disc stuff on the back, which doesn't really work all that well. It looks like it came out. Anyway, it's a neat system. I've been using it for 3 or 4 years now, but these things sort of just float here in the drawer. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to internalize them into the drawer. I don't know if you've seen the video or not, but we did a video a while back talking about this Wen 18 gauge 2-inch brad nailer. Now, if you want to see what these things are about, keep watching or go over and check out the review I did. I'll put a link to the video right up here. Man, that little pancake air compressor is loud. This has got kind of a nasty cup to it, so I'm going to switch these around theoretically. I should be able to just switch them end to end and they should still fit. Everything should be fine, and this will present the cup face to the outside where I can cinch it down. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I'm putting on something that's probably not going to hold up and look very good for me. You know, something I should probably explain is, you can see there's some dents and stuff in here, and I could go back in and putty these over, but I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna leave some of the dents and dings in it, because, hey man, this guy's old, and he's earned every one of these scars. I hate doing extra work, but the color of my desk is going to be this color. I had a bunch of paint, so that's going to be the color of my desk. I've got some green paint, and I've got some sort of a reddish chalky colored paint that I bought as mismatches or were free samples. This is sort of that green colored paint. I wanted to see what it looked like on the drawer. This is sort of that terracotta colored paint. As much as I love that green, I don't think it's for this project. I think I'm going to paint them that sort of a pinkish color. My desk will be all pastel-y, kind of like things were back in the 50s. Well, since we figured out what kind of color I'm going to put on this, it actually has a name. It's called Lavanda Deep Clay Red. It's an interior paint. But hey, it's a desk, and while I'm sloppy, I'm not that kind of sloppy, so. So I've been having a rethink about this whole desk project. I was going to use a piece of plywood, that one that's over there at the end of the bench, for the shelf that I'm going to put on, but I'm really thinking, I don't know that anybody's going to use this. I'm certainly not going to get back around to it. I've got 2 more furniture projects before I would ever get back to this, and I'm slow, so I'm going to chop this up and use it. I'm going to take this shelf off and use it for the shelf on the new media center desk. And these sides are big, solid, laminated chunks of pretty sturdy wood, so I'm going to pull those off. They got to come off. I'm going to use those to make the uprights for this. I think that'll work out pretty good, and I'll have some stuff left over and I can use for other projects, and none of this will go to waste, that's for sure. There's some 50-year-old screws right there. Don't make them like that anymore. If this was a modern screw, that Phillips head would just be all hogged out right there and be all rounded over one direction or the other. The new stuff's just garbage. These old ones work pretty good. I'm not going to reuse them though, so. Interesting. So there's a slot here that I'm going to have to fill in. So it's a good thing I'm painting it, eh? Apparently that's how you do it. So that was part of how it was stabilizing the top. I'm going to have to putty it, so I'll probably take out some of these chew marks and stuff from over the years of use. So I've been looking at these slots, and I've just had another thought about this. Rather than cutting a couple of 1/2 inch by 3/8 inch slats to fit down in there and glue them and then shape them and make sure they fit correctly with the little screws that are still kind of sticking up to hold the top on, I've had another thought. I don't know why it wouldn't work. I used to build boats, and when I was building a lot of boats, there was a period I went through where I built a lot of small sailboats for my kids and stuff. I would go through Tupperware containers like crazy, so I went to a food supply company. I bought like a sleeve of these for nothing. I mean, maybe $5-10, and they're great for whipping up a small batch of like epoxy, Devcon, Bondo, you name it. You can even mix up some paint in it. They're pretty good, and they're super cheap. When you're done with them, you throw them out. Okay, it's been 24 hours. The Bondo's set up. I can feel it's a little bit low. Bondo shrinks up. All fillers do, I think. But this stuff, it shrinks up pretty good. So we're going to have to go back and hit it again. But first, I brought out my high-tech sanding block. This was a high-quality 2x4 that I used for some project, no doubt. And this is some sandpaper to do around it. Works good for knocking stuff off. So let's take all this apart and see what it looks like. Some of this stuff, there were dents here that I hadn't seen, probably from where I was prying the top off, and it may have dented it there, but the filler's gone back in and filled it up, so never even be able to see it when we're done. There's enough on there, all we got to do is sand it back down. So once that's done, I think this is going to be really nice. It's starting to look more like a desk. This right here is the secret of being able to work in the shop in the winter here in Olympia, Washington. It gets so darn cold and wet, and tonight's no exception, but thanks to the magic of a propane heater and a partially open shop door, it's staying reasonably warm in here. I'm not froze. So I'm going through and I'm straightening up some of the wood that we've reclaimed from the desk. And there's some really nice, clean, clear grain stuff in here. It's a nice piece of wood. I'm going to use this. Is going to come up in another project. I think a lot of this wood is. There's a big piece from the back of the desk that looks like it's clear cedar. I'm going to sand that down and stain it and use it for one of Miss Nancy's projects. She's making somebody for Christmas. And I think that's going to look a lot better than the remnants of cedar that I had here in the shop, because that old stuff's just really pretty. So here you go, here's looking up in the belly of the beast. You can see how painstakingly this was crafted. Looks like he had this cut, he cut his notch and it was wrong. So anyway, there's that. And this paneling that's made out of on the sides isn't very sturdy, and it's kind of split. The only thing really holding it's right there, which is not attached to the frame. If you look up here, there's a gap. This isn't attached to that. So without that being attached to that, just attached to the front, this front section. So my plan is I'm going to cut a piece of plywood, lay up in here, notch out the corners, but I should be able to glue it, brad it in, and it should make this just rock solid. I'm going to cut the center of it out just because, hey, I don't want to add another 10 pounds to this stupid desk. Why would you put these supports in, but really not hook them up to anything? This one isn't even hooked up down here. And it's not a drawer slide. As you can see, there's no drawer slides in there, so it's just a support, but it doesn't actually attach to anything. So all the structural rigidity of this is coming from this panel here, which is kind of wonky, and we're going to fix that up. But I've got some feet I can put on this to kind of get it up off the floor a little bit. Well, the first one's in and it looks pretty good. Man, this thing is solid. It ain't going nowhere. It's like a truck now. That's what I should have done to it in the first place, make these stupid rings. This one, I think if I take the old repairs out of it, it's not gonna recover from it very well. So at this point, I've cut the ring to accommodate that repair, and we'll just integrate it. Because it's holding up and it's working, but I want to anchor it to something because it's really not anchored to anything at the bottom end. And that's what's flexing these panels. So listen to this. And this. Much more solid. Time to put some feet on this beast. So we had a slight change in plans. The paint that I wanted to use, they don't make anymore. They don't have that formula. I'm gonna have to go have it shot. But since I haven't really painted anything except the stanchions with the color, I had him mix up what we thought it was based on the formula, and I got this, which is pretty close to what I wanted. It's a little bit peachier, maybe more of a peach color, but what the heck? It's going on my desk. This is the new color of the desk. You know, this thing's pretty old, but I like how simple it is, man. It's just stick built. You can't buy anything today that isn't just made out of some sort of crappy laminate or a sticker over a piece of particle board. So I suppose it's worth all this time. That's a buttload of sanding though. Okay, so I got 2 coats of paint on it. This paint doesn't cover as well as I'd hoped it would. You know, it's Valspar, it's good paint. It's just we're going from a fairly dark color over to a light color. It's probably going to need, well, it's going to definitely need 3 coats, probably going to need 4 coats. So as soon as this paint's dry enough, I've got to pull it out and sand the top of the desk, get it smoothed out. I wish I'd thought of doing that earlier before I laid it up on its back, but this is cool. The workbench is on wheels. I'll just pull it out and sand the back down. Once this stuff's dry enough, it won't stick. I still got to sand the shelf, get it ready to go, so still a lot of stuff to do. So the desk is done. You can see the paint came out pretty good. Everything looks real good. The desktop is huge now. I got plenty of room on top for my monitor, my speakers. I've got room underneath to charge my cameras and have them out of the way. They're not in the way really. I've got room underneath on this side for my USB module and my extra mouse. So I'm pretty happy with that. It's amazing how much stuff you pull out of a desk that you really just don't want to put back in. So with the modifications of that shelf and the stanchions, pulling the top off of it, I've made this into a pretty good desk, and I think it's going to serve me for a long, long time. Alright, on to the next project.